Do you want to see an example of how we can build up code? If you do, you're in the right place, because today we're looking at a coding example that we're going to create a game of battleships, and that's quite a complex task, but we're going to break it down into simple tasks. We're just going to get something to work and then develop it. So the task is to create the battleship game, and it's part of our fun and games series. So let's keep it simple. So by keeping it simple, we mean break it down into parts and then code those parts. So we need to show the board, we need to get the shot from the player, and we need to check to see if it's a hit or a miss or a sink. Now we're going to keep it very simple in this video. You could advance the game and make it more complex, but let's develop something first that works. So let's get something that completes our task, what our goal is. Once you've got that, then you can improve it after. But let's start off with just getting to our goal. So in this video, we're just going to look at the start, and we're going to split it into two: part A, which is quite simple, and part B, which is the next stage after that. So what we're going to do in part A, we're going to look at things like print, if, elif and else, for loop, lists, and probably the hardest thing that we're going to do is use a loop inside another loop. Now part B will be a bit more difficult. We're going to use input, which we're going to use a try and accept in case there's any errors, and type conversion, because we're going to change a string to an integer. We're going to break out our loops. We're going to use functions and also some list functions. So let's have a look how we can do this the easy way. So we're going to have 10 rows and 10 columns. We're just going to number them from 0 to 99. We're not going to use multiple arrays, lists of lists. If you see a video on how to code a battleship game, it normally has each row as a list and has those 10 rows in another list, which can be quite confusing if you're a beginner. So let's start off this 100 places on a board, and we're going to number them from 0 to 99. So here's our board to start off with. You can see at the top we have 0 to 9, going down we have 0 to 9, and the user just will enter a number. So if it's 0, it's the first place; if it's 5, it's on the top row at place 5; if it's 99, it's the last place. Like I said, keep it simple. Now how do a player guess? Well, we're going to give them a message, they enter a number, we check that's okay, and that's it. If they give us a wrong number, then we just repeat what we've just done. Now how do we check if it's a hit, miss or sink? Well, we've got our numbers as the boats, and then we're going to keep a record of which numbers have hit, which ones have missed, and which one has sunk the boat. So that will become clearer as we start doing the code. So in Python, as I said, we will use loops like for loop. We're going to check, see if things are like if a shot is in a boat, so we're going to use if statements, if, elif and else, and also we're going to get the shot from the user, so we're going to use input. As I said in part A, perhaps the most complex thing is just using an inner loop. So we can use a for loop inside another for loop. So here's an example. If you're not sure how loops work, then perhaps you can run this code, and once you see the output, then it might help you understand. So we have the inner loop. We've got J will go from 0 to 9, and that will run 10 times. And I will go from 0 to 9 as well. So we'll basically get a print statement of 0, then 0 to 9, then 1, 0 to 9, carried on. So have a look at that if you're not sure. Get that code, run that, and see what happens, and then hopefully you should understand that. Okay, let's start off with part A. Let's start off simple. We need to print the board. So we're going to print what you see here, where we've just got 100 dashes. We've got 10 columns and 10 rows. So we just want to print that board. So we can start off with a simple print statement. Use print and in brackets put the quotes and then that's called an underscore. So if we do that, that will print an underscore. Now if we wanted to do that 10 times, we could put a space, then another one, then a space. But an easier way to do it would be to multiply that string by 10 and now print that. So let's try that. Now you see we've got 10 lines with spaces in between them. Now we want to do that 10 times, so we can create a loop. So we can use a for loop. So if we want to do it 10 times, we can do it in a range. So let's say for x in range, we want 10 times 10. The 10 is in brackets, and then we're going to use a colon. With Python, we need a space to say that whatever's in the for loop underneath with this space will happen. So that will happen 10 times. Let's run that, and we can see now we have 10 lines, 10 columns and 10 rows. Now we wanted to put the numbers in. Now in this for loop, the x will start off at 0. It will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So in our print statement, we can put x and comma. So now we're going to print x, then the lines, the underscore and space 10 times. So now you can see what x is when it goes round in this loop. So let's run that. Now you can see it's gone 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we wanted to put some numbers at the top. So that's going to be before our loop. So we can just print that. So we can just say print, and here we're going to have 1. Actually, we're going to start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, up to 9. Let's try that. Okay, so we need to move them over a bit. So let's add some spacing. So you can see now it's starting to look like our board. We also had print Battleship at the beginning, didn't we? So now we can write Battleship. If that's how we want that, let's try that. Battleships, maybe we move it over a little. Okay, so now we have our board. We printed battleships, we printed the numbers from 0 to 9. Then we printed in a loop the iterator, the number in the loop, which in here is x, and then we printed the dash, the underscore with a space, times by 10, and then that gave us our board. Now if we want to space it out a bit, we might add some more spaces, for example. So let's have a look what we've got here. So now we've added more spaces, we can add spaces to our heading. Let's try this. Okay, so we need to move it over a bit. Okay, so now we have more spacing on our board. So we still have the same code, but we've just added a few spaces to make it look bigger. So our board will change from these dashes, so we need to change our code. So for example, when someone hits a ship, we might show a cross. So we need to change our code to be able to show different symbols. So let's take out the multiply by 10, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create another loop inside the first loop. So we've got a loop that will go around 10 times, and inside that there's another loop. So the first loop will create each row, and the second loop will make the row that was going to be printed. So let's start off by saying that this dash is the character we need. So we've got the character equals the dash, and now we want our row to equal the row plus that character. And now we're going to print the number of the row, space, and then the row. So we just need to move that print back. So let's move that back and run it again. So now that's worked. So when we had the print statement inside the loop, it kept on printing the number and each dash 1, 2, 3 up to 10 times. That's not what we wanted. So when we move the print outside of the second for loop, so it prints the row after this loop. So let's summarize. The inside for loop creates the row of dashes. The outside loop prints each row, the number of the row, and then the string, which is the dashes together. So let's run that again. You can see that that's worked. Now if we want to put another character inside this board, we need to know where it is. Now we know we've got numbers, we've got 100 places. They start off at 0 and go up to 99. So what we can do, we can create what's called a counter. So when we create a row, we can just add 1 to this counter to know what place it's in. So that means that we know when we create these dashes what position it's in. Now imagine if we have a guess that correctly hits a battleship, and let's say that's in position 21. So now we want to show a cross. So let's imagine that if the place equals 21, then our character is going to equal a space and a cross, like that. So let's try to run that. So here is place 21 and it's shown our cross. So here we had an if statement to say that if the place is 21, that position, then our character changed from the line to the cross. Now we've used 21 in the if statement. We don't want to do that. So when we run our program, when we find places that have hit the ship, we're going to keep that in a list of numbers. So let's imagine we have 21, 22 and 23. So now in our if statement we can't say if place equals 21. So the equals means the same as. But now we're going to use a list. So we're going to say in hit. So hit is the name of our list, and if the number is in this list, which includes 21, 22 or 23, it will show a cross. So So let's run that, and you see we've got the 3 crosses. Now if we want to use another character, let's make the hit an O, and let's have the cross as a miss. So let's see. That's a cross. So hit, and let's say miss equals, let's say 20 and 24 and 12 and 30. So now we can record when we've hit a ship and when we've missed a ship. And we use if. So we've got an if statement, and we've got, if you like, another if statement. So if place is in hit, it will make the character the O. If not, then it will check to see if it's in miss. So let's run that, and you can see that's worked. You might find that there's probably more misses than hits, so we might want to write that first. That makes our code better. So the only thing we need to think about is, normally when this game happens, if someone sinks a whole ship, then they know that that's their the last hit is the one that sinks the ship. So we want another character. So let's try adding so we'll have comp for complete. So imagine if this 23 in our hit was the last guess that sunk the ship. So let's put that in a list called comp, and let's make that a big 0 or a big O, let's say. So now let's run that again, and now you can see that when we hit the ship for the final time, we can see that that has sunk the ship. So let's start off with the simplest thing, and that is to put the existing code in a function. So we have hit miss comp here, so that's not going to be in the show board function. So what we've got here, this code, the code that we've written so far, we can create a function called show board. Now when we show the board, we do need to have the hit, miss and comp lists to do that. So we have hit, miss and comp lists, and we pass them to that function. So when we call it, we just use the function name show board, and then we're going to pass it those 3 lists. So we can start off quite straightforward. We've just indented all our code and used define, and now we can run that to see if it works, and that's done the same as it did before, so that's fine. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.